Thank you so much for joining me, bike and gravel enthusiasts. My name is Sean, and today we're going to take a look at the GRX Groupset by Shimano to determine, is it worth the cost and should you upgrade? Now, the GRX Groupset is Shimano's gravel and adventure specific groupset, and it has a ton of awesome features that make it unique and specific for off-road riding. Now, this comes in 3 tiers, a 2x10, a 2x11, which is what we have here on the Cannondale Topstone, and a DI2. Now, starting up front with the levers, one characteristic that you'll notice is that they are quite tall and wide, and this allows you to get a really confident purchase on them when you're going over technical terrain. You don't feel like your hands are going to slip off. Also, the lever face itself is quite wide, which gives it a real comfortable feeling against your fingers when you do have to feather the brakes over a long descent. And of course, being Shimano brakes, they hit a really nice crisp wall about halfway through their travel, which means you don't risk pinching your fingers between the lever and the bar, and it also gives you a ton of confidence that when you need to brake under extreme circumstances, that those brakes are going to be there ready to work. And if you're familiar with Shimano shifting, I do prefer this 2 lever design with the downshifting and upshifting with 2 separate levers. It keeps the travel, the sideways travel in the lever minimum, which allows you to maintain a good grip while you're shifting. Now, they are paired with the GRX flat mount calipers. These style calipers do shave a few grams off of a traditional post mount or IS style caliper, and they are slightly more aerodynamic. Moving on to the back of the bike, this is one of my favorite parts about the GRX Groupset, and that's that rear derailleur. It has 2 awesome features worth mentioning. The first one is that clutch mechanism. You can turn that clutch on and off if you need to service the bike, remove the rear wheel. However, with that clutch engaged, that chain is extremely tight, which means you don't have to risk chain slap, damaging your rear chain stay, and it does help keep that chain glued to that front chain ring, so you don't have to worry about dropping off chains while you're on the trail. And as you can see, the clutch derailleur makes a huge difference. So no more chain hitting your chain stays, and it's really, really stiff. So I am in love with this clutch derailleur. It's really, really awesome. It's got large jockey wheels on the rear derailleur. The second feature is it's positioned closer to the frame, closer to the wheel, which helps protect it from debris, rocks, roots, or other obstacles that you might encounter on the trail. Now, moving up to the center of the bike, we have this Crankset. Now, the Crankset is a 46/30 tooth dual crankset, which, unlike a road style crankset, which could be a 50/36, this does give you lower gearing, approximately 24.5 gear inches with a 40C tire. Not quite touring capable. Typically for touring bikes, we're looking for around a 20 gear inch. However, Shimano does sell a rear derailleur, the 812 model, which can accept up to a 42 tooth rear cog. So if you do want to drop it down to a 19 or a 20 gear inch for touring, or you just want better climbing, you can always get the 812 rear derailleur. As an aside, the 810 derailleur only accepts up to a 34 cog, which is what's on this bike. But that front chainring does give you some lower gears for climbing, and I find that it has plenty of range for most riders. And you don't sacrifice a whole lot up top with that 46 chainring. Only about 3 to 5 miles per hour reduction in top speed at a 90 to 120 cadence. So you can still easily hit 35 to 40 miles an hour if you're in the shape to do that with this. So a little compromise on the top end for some advantage on the low end. Now, cost. A lot of you are going to be wondering about the cost. How much will it cost for me to upgrade this? So doing a quick online search, what are we looking at numbers wise? If you just want to get the levers, you're looking at around $200 each. The levers with the calipers pre-bled with the line intact, you're looking at about $260 to $300 each. So about twice that for the pair. However, I did find the full front and rear brake set, caliper lines, levers for between $420 to $640. So you do need to do your shopping because the prices range huge online depending on where you find them, and of course the availability can be an issue. Now that doesn't include the rest of the group set. So we're looking at, there's a slight decrease in price for the 2x10 setup, but not that much. We'll talk about that later. You're looking at about $50 for the cassette, about 15 to 20 bucks for the chain, 105 for the rear derailleur if you go for the 810, a little bit more for the 812 I believe. And then for the chainring, you're looking at around $135. So all in all, you're sort of pricing this around $770 to get the, and the front derailleur, I think I have it here as 46 bucks. So you're looking at $770 all in for the full group set. The 2x10, like I mentioned, you might save $100 or $200. But if you are looking for an 11 speed, it's not going to cost you a whole lot more. So with that, what kind of performance can you expect? So I took this bike off-road, and what I find is that this group set is a great compromise for on and off-road riding. It has really nice spacing between the cogs in the rear cassette, so very, very nice for road riding. It also had plenty enough gears for me on some pretty steep climbs. If you wanted to, like I mentioned before, go for the 812 and get a larger cog in the rear, bigger cassette, you could do that, although I found that if I was going on any trails that this cassette couldn't take me on, I'm probably biking anyway. So it definitely had enough low climbing gears, and for the ride that I did go on, most of the time I wasn't even in the largest cog in the rear. Braking is phenomenal, of course, what you would expect with Shimano. Like I mentioned earlier, I have a ton of confidence, not just in maintaining grip on those levers, but also the ability for this to brake really hard, very fast. And so no worries about maybe skidding off trail or not making that turn. So brakes are phenomenal, of course, what you would expect. The shifting is fast and crisp. I do prefer this two style lever design. That way you're not moving that lever all the way over for a double shift. So it does allow you to maintain a good purchase on the grips while you're shifting. Other than that, I don't have much else to say about the performance. Other than that chain is rock solid and doesn't go anywhere. No flapping around, no noise. So really, really great product overall. I'm super glad I bought it. So the last question we have to answer is it worth upgrading to? And so I have some really interesting points to bring up for you guys, and that is, it really depends on what you're looking for out of your bike. If you just want better braking, you can go with the just the levers and the brake calipers themselves, or you can look for, if you're running mechanical setup now, you could go with the Tiagra or the Dura-Ace or some other hydraulic shifters. Doesn't necessarily, or the hydraulic brakes, doesn't necessarily have to be the GRX. If you're looking for more off-road performance, you want the lower gearing and you want that clutch mechanism. As I mentioned, you can always get the 810 or the 812 rear derailleur. You don't have to upgrade the whole system. However, if you're running mechanical style brakes, you want better braking, you want better off-road capabilities with the clutch mechanism, and you want the lower gearing, then this is an awesome set to upgrade to. One thing to consider is, if you are in the market for a bike and that company offers a GRX model in their lineup, I would highly recommend that you spend the little extra money now to get the GRX Groupset with the bike than to put it on later, because a lot of what I'm seeing online in these bike reviews, especially with the Cannondale Topstone, is a lot of the folks that bought the middle or lower end of the model, within the first year or two they're upgrading to the GRX before they've even worn out their original parts, so they're spending more money in the long run. So if you got a bike that you love and there's not a whole lot that you want to upgrade, you have the wheel set that you want, I'd go ahead and upgrade to the GRX. If you have any other questions or want any other reviews of other bike products, post them in the comments section down below and I'll be sure to make a video. Thanks guys for watching, and if you haven't subscribed, feel free to do that. Cheers.